Uh, well, last year when I did this presentation, I basically present the privatization of the educational system. Now, today we have a different topic and we have excellent presenters. I'm so glad that they are doing this with me because it's going to be more a broad perspective about the educational system in Chile. So we're going to focus in the educational quality from the accountability lens. Now, this is really important in the title because that is the focus of our presentation. We are not going to talk about the whole country as we have done it in other times. So, just some economical highlights. Chile is an upper middle income economy and is among the Latin America fastest growing economies. This is from the World Bank. It's in the number 30 competitive country in the world and the first in the Latin American. It's the first South American country in join to the OECD. But also it has a highest level of inequality in the OECD country. That's the Gini coefficient is 0.5. And if you compare it with the state, they are actually similar, which is also very high. In 2009, 11.5 of the population living in poverty. So this is so you can have like a broader view of the country. Now about the educational system, we have an elementary educational system, which is 8 years, secondary, which is 4, and then we have higher education. Sergio is going to talk more about how the higher educational system works, so I'm not going to speak about how many years these have. About the types of education, Chile has a private and public system, but the public system also has private ownership. So it's similar to what we have here about the charter school, so you can have that view about how our system is. So financed by the state, we have municipal ownership and also private ownership, and they both receive money from the state. And we also have financed directly by private, and it's also private ownership. Now, because of this, we might say that the public enrollment is 48%, and the private enrollment is, the public enrollment is 46%, and the private enrollment is 48%. And if you add this to the 5% of private ownership and private economic source, it's possible to say that we have more a private system than a public system when you're thinking how this is financed. Now, accountability in Chile. This is what we are going to speak about. So first we have to give a broad definition of what we are understanding about accountability. Well, this is a brief historical scenario. Before speaking about the accountability system, just very fast, a brief historical educational scenario. During the 70s and the 80s and part of the 90s, we have a dictatorship, and this dictatorship imposed an economical system. So it changed the way that our education system works. Oh, what happened there? It's just moving by itself? Yeah. I move it, or it moved by itself? So it's moving along? Why are you doing this? Oh my God. It really wants to go to the next one. Well, in the 90s, we have what we have some called a political and economic stability. And during 2000, we start an internationalization process, but also an increasing of inequalities. Now, how do we understand accountability? We might say that there are 3 main purposes about accountability. First, the administration of public resource as a function of testing results. This means that using tests, we are knowing what is going on with the system. A public transparency of results allows for a public audit of public service. And third, assign responsibilities and consequences for performance. So it's not only that there is a public auditing of what is going on, it's also assigned responsibilities of the action that are in the system. The source, you cannot see it there, but if you log into the website, you will see the source that we are using. We are going to talk about 3 specific examples of this accountability system in Chile. First, about the CIMSE, that we are linking the system with the evaluation of a school, which is the system of measurement of scholarity quality, and it's a Chilean national learning outcome assessment. Then Carolina is going to talk about the teacher evaluation, specifically about Docente Más, which is a national teacher evaluation system. And then Sergio is going to speak about higher education, specifically about the national system for quality assurance in higher education. So I'm going to start with the CIMSE. Now, a brief history of the CIMSE. It started, like the first national evaluation system, started in 1982, and it was called PER, it's basically an evaluation of a student result. Now, this changed in 1988, and is when the CIMSE started with the name that it has now. It's an evaluation in math. It started as an evaluation in math and language in the 4th and 8th grade. Now, the logic of accountability, as it is right now, is started in 1996 when we have the democratic government. So this is a picture of Pinochet, the dictatorship. This is the political campaign to change the government in Chile. This is the transition. And the accountability system is actually in these 5 presidents. We are the democratic presidents. So the accountability logic started in 1996 because the student result starts to be in public. The national test result starts to be in public, and it's also a relationship between the results and economic incentive to the schools and teachers who have these results. In 2005, we have an increase of frequency of the test, and also in the dimension. This means that before we have the test like each 2 years, but in 2005, we start to have it every year. In 2009, it is decided that repeat fails of schools in the CIMSE, if a school has lower result in the CIMSE 3 times, then the school will be closed. And in 2012, there is also an increase of frequency in other grades. There are more dimensions to evaluate. This means more subjects to evaluate. And right now, we have the CIMSE in 2nd, in 4th, in 6th, in 8th, and 10th grade, and in language, science, math, and physical education. Now, this varied in each of these sectors, but we are saying this just to highlight that we really love testing. We do it a lot, maybe too much. So, what are the controversial issues about the CIMSE? How much time have I speak already? 10 minutes? Oh, I'm great. Just some time. So one of the first controversial issues is technical issues. Now, there has been a political campaign which is called Alto al CIMSE that I support, and there are around 4,000 people there, 3 national educational prizes that also support the campaign, and from there are many of the critics to the CIMSE that I have taken for this presentation. So the first technical issue is what has been called a pedagogical distortion. This is usually understood as teachers start to teach only to get good result in the test. So the issue here is what we are understanding as good teacher's performance. Is a good teacher performance to have a good result in the test? It's a controversial issue because some people say that we should think in education in a more holistic sense. Second is the idea of quality of education. Now, the president of the National Commission of Education just last week responded to a letter that we sent to an investigation media that is called CIPER in Chile, where people was arguing that the CIMSE actually doesn't measure quality, because quality is not only a student result of the test. And the president of that organization responded to the media saying, yes, the CIMSE doesn't have to measure quality of education. It's not his role. Now, the strange thing here is why we still calling them CIMSE, like the system to evaluate quality of education, with that name if we are not measuring quality with this. And also being more strange, the president of Chile just this week said that the CIMSE actually measure quality of education. So doing a critical approach to the CIMSE is also doing a critical approach of what we are understanding of quality of education. First, we are starting the critique with the instrument because we really want to question how we understand quality. Is this only a result of the test? And also, a report that was published in 2013 that was also commissioned by the Commissioner of the National Commission of Education, that Sergio have that in his slide, requests for a technical analysis of the validity of the CIMSE. And in this analysis, there was 2 conclusions. One, the question of the CIMSE are not measuring what they're supposed to measure, and they have no high quality question. And second, the implementation is very strange. Sometimes teachers receive a report of what they have been evaluated, but they don't relate this with their own practice. And also, they receive this info sometimes from teachers that doesn't have actually teaching practice. And there is another issue about this technical thing, that the same report result says that you can identify 17 different purposes for the SIMSE. Now that is too much. How you can actually how you can prove that you are actually getting a result if you have so many purposes for the same test. Now we have difference between teachers and academics who say different purpose for the same evaluation. Also, the second critical is that the SIMSE is supporting a market-oriented educational system where parents supposed to decide education for their children using this test, and this logic for us is something that increased the segregation. And there is also a report, a publication last year that is a statistical analysis of the last 20 years, and it shows how the market-oriented policies are increasing the segregation of the educational system. Third, there are more anecdotal evidence about this. I have read some papers in the United States of high testing tests and how these have consequence in the health of the teacher and students, but there is not much evidence in Chile about this, but there is some evidence that this kind of test also is unhealthy for teachers and students. And the fourth issue is how we are understanding the right to education in Chile. Right now in the Constitution, in the Chilean Constitution, is defining inside of the right to education that parents should choose an education for their children, which it looks fine. But the issue is how you relate this with the educational policies. It seems that it's not actually supporting the right to education. Does that make sense? Oh, please, you, yes? For you? Oh, that's great. Now for everyone, a little. That's good. So, so maybe in the Q&A I can explain more about that, because I really want to that everyone will have appropriate time to speak. So now Carolina is going to speak about the teacher evaluation system in Chile.
I don't know, this doesn't work. No, okay, just for... So use the mic. Thanks for coming. So I will just talk a little bit about, in a very descriptive way, about the teacher evaluation system that we have implemented in Chile. It is very important to me to say that this SIMSE, what Mauricio was talking, is the main framework where all these accountability policies have been implemented in Chile. Each decision about what happened at the school level, at teacher level, at parents level, is taken based on the results that these schools have and teachers have in this SIMSE. So, but there is also other mechanisms that we have created to see in what ways and to what extent really the teachers can really have a good work in improving students' learning. So the big question in the idea of teacher evaluation is define what it means to be a good teacher. And for that, we should start saying something about teacher quality. So some ideas here. There's many different ways to understand teacher quality, and in most of the countries today, there's a lot of discussions about how we're gonna conceptualize the idea of what it means to be a good teacher. So there are three main ways to conceptualize quality. The first one is based on teacher's background. So somebody is a good teacher because he has good school degrees, he get good SAT, he went to a good university, means the qualification that teachers have. There is a second way related with what teachers do. So a good teacher is the one who does something, who improves students' learning. This model is basically in what happened inside the school. Something is a good teacher because he knows what to do with kids with have problems. Somebody's a good teacher because he knew a new strategy to teach math. And the third approach, which is the most controversial, I think, and is the one who is used in almost every country now, is the idea of a good teacher is the one who gets good results. So basically, the idea is we should define a test in order to see how the students learn. If they learn, the teacher is good. So what I have this idea is the countries have been struggling with the idea of what kind of systems we're gonna use in order to see how good the teachers are. And what we have seen is this shift between the idea of teacher based on qualifications to the idea of teachers based in the effectiveness. Means what students really learn, the outcomes. So, and this is the logic where seems the program that Mauricio show you, it's based. It's clear? Please ask me questions. My English sometimes, it's super clear in my mind. But so what is the purpose of teacher evaluation in Chile? Basically, 5 main purposes have been developed. The first one is attracting the best secondary education graduates to initial teacher education. So when the kids are secondary, there is a lot of fellowships in order to improve the motivation for good kids to study education. So today, if you want to become a teacher, the state provides you all you need to become a good teacher. The second is improving the quality of initial teacher education, and this means important plan programs in state and public and private universities in order to improve the quality of the teacher education. Developing teacher and school leadership standards means create the main framework in order to decide what means to be a good teacher or what doesn't. Creating a teacher career structure. In Chile, when you decide to become a teacher, you start working as a teacher and you are in the same status forever. There is not here or in some other countries, you stay first, you work 5 years and then you become a better, like a second level. And then in Chile, all the teachers are in the same administrative level. And finally, improving retention by rewarding quality teachers and school leaders. And this is one of the main strategies. It's based on award teachers with money. So if they get good results, they get more money, which is very interesting in terms of what is the motivation that teachers have to improve students' outcomes. It's really an intrinsic motivation to improve the education, or is also motivation to increase the salary, which is also a valid motivation. So the standards within Chile have been created based on this model. It's basically a standards-based performance teacher evaluation, which means the evaluation, teachers are good when they do something good in class. So the Chilean system have created this model, which may the name Good Teacher Framework, but what basically said, a good teacher is the one who prepares their classes. A good teacher is the one who creates an environment conducive to learning, means they provide all the resources in the classroom for improving students' learning. A good teacher is the one who promotes learning for all the students, means they are able to manage all the diversity that we have in our classrooms. As you know, in this long country, there is a great diversity of students, ethnic groups, social class, diversity, etc. And finally, professional responsibilities. And this idea is related with how the teacher is able to connect their own work to what happened outside in the in the educational system with other colleagues, etc. So basically, the idea is, if you are in Chile, you are a good teacher if you are able to do all this stuff. That's it. One of the main programs that I'm presenting, and it's also part of my research, is called Docente Más. It's a teacher performance evaluation system. Basically, what this system do is evaluate in what ways the teachers achieve what I show you in the last slide. It was implemented in 2003 as part of a program of teacher professional development. It's a tripartite agreement between the Ministry of Education, the Chilean Association of Municipalities, means the private sector, and the teacher unions. This is very interesting, is the political piece of the teacher evaluations. You can evaluate the teachers if teachers don't want to be evaluated, and this was a main controversy for many years in Chile. It covers all classroom teachers in municipal sector who have at least 1 year of professional practice. All the teachers have to participate in this program, which is also interesting. There is no systems to evaluate teachers from private schools. The purpose is to improve teachers' practice and promote their continuing professional development for the purpose of improving students' learning. Legally, has a formative purpose. Means it's supposed that teacher is going to learn with this process. This is graphic about how many teachers each year are evaluated. As you can see, it's enormous variety of the amount of teachers is incredible, and all of them have to take the same process of evaluation. Basically, it's 4 instruments: a self-evaluation system who get all the reflections that teachers have, a peer evaluator interview who provides teachers feedbacks about their own work, third-party reference report, which means principals' reports about teachers' behavior, and the teacher portfolio that I will explain because it's the main instrument. As you can see, this is the percentage of how much important is each of this instrument. As you can see, for example, self-evaluation, it's 10%, which means nothing. And this is interesting if the purpose of the whole system is improve the process of reflection. They also have a teacher's background questionnaires and surveys to evaluate the evaluation. This is super typical in Chile. It's an evaluation to evaluate the evaluation. The teacher portfolio is basic. They have to present a learning unit. They took like 4 months during each year to prepare this portfolio, which is also crazy because they have to do it almost some of them 1 year, each 1 year, and some second year. So they are in the evaluation process for all the time. So what they need to show is that they are able to conduct a class. And then they are also able to assess what teachers learn and also reflect about their pedagogical practice. And then they have than here, which is also interesting, this exportation of evaluation processes, because in many countries it's the same. The purpose of this video is to develop a lesson with a good start, developing and closer, capacity to create quality, interaction between students, capacity to keep a proper working environment, and finally, quality of the explanation and the didactic strategies they use. So all of this stuff they have to present in this portfolio. What are the criteria to judge the quality of their performance? Organization of the elements of the learning unit, analysis of class activities, quality of the assessment in the learning unit, reflection about the assessment, reflection about pedagogical practice, classroom environment, structure of the class, and pedagogical interaction. I'm done with the time. Okay, so I would just show the level of performance. You can become unsatisfactory, so you have to start a professional plan to improve your practice. You can get a basic performance. They also have to participate in plans. And finally, which is most interesting, is the outstanding or competing teachers have the choice to participate in this monetary award programs that they finally get more money for their work. If they don't good well, they are out of the educational system. When they are in two years, they have unsatisfactory work, they go out. And finally, something that the OECD told us about the evaluation. The last report was presented last year. Some of the strengths is a focus on improving quality, clear reference to good teaching performance, recognition of the importance of classroom observations, transparency, etc. Which is most interesting for me is the challenge that they pose. The developmental function of teacher evaluation has been subsumed into the accountability aims of the system. I will not read everything. There is some ones more interesting. There is a little connection to actual classroom practices. The resources for teachers to undertake their evaluation might be limited. There is few opportunities for feedback. Again, this idea of formative and reflection process is not part of the whole evaluation. So this is the controversies. Remember that the name of this presentation is Controversy. The Chilean people is controversial in nature. So some of the main controversies are: in what ways and to what extent does a teacher evaluation system really promote teacher professional development when it is associated with high-stake consequences? So how the teacher is going to really reflect about their own practice if it's based on money, you know? The second one is: in what ways and to what extent does a centralized teacher evaluation system capture the diversity of the Chilean educational system? And this is one of the most important critiques and controversies in the model. How all the teachers have to do the same, and this is not fair. For the teachers, it's not fair for the kids. Is performance the main proxy to identify a good teacher? This is the main question. It's finally the question of what really means to be a good teacher. What is the quality? Is just performance? Is just what happened in classroom, or is also related with the ethical commitment of teachers, the political commitment of them? This is one of my hypotheses. I'm just saying quality is not what happened. It's also the ethical and political commitment of teachers, at least in Chile. And this is also related with culture. And finally, what role should the educational community play in the teacher evaluation system? There is no place for the community to say how good is the teacher. And this is, again, not fair for the community, not fair for the teachers. That's all. I'm Sergio, talking about higher education.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about the quality assurance in the Chilean higher education context. Just some general things and a few controversies about the system at this moment. At first, a small characterization about the Chilean higher education system. There are 4 types of institutions: universities, professional institutes, technical training centers, and the military academies that were considered as well as part of the system. The first one just provides professional training and academic degrees. Universities are the only institutions that can provide degrees in this case. So in Chile, we have 2 tracks, the professional track and the academic track. So if you go to university, as example, I'm a psychologist, and I'm professional psychologist, and as well I have a bachelor degree in psychology. So you can get 2 tracks in university. The programs in universities last between 5 to 7 years. 7 years is the medicine school. It's almost, they have the longest program. Professional institutes, they can provide just professional training, no degrees, and technical training. The programs last between 2 years, the technical programs, and 5 years, the professionals. And technical training centers has the name says, is technical training. The program lasts between 2 to 3 years. Professional institutes and technical training centers are all private. And military academies, they just provide training in military-related areas. At this time, there are 2 different range of military academies. One for officers, military officers, and sub-officers. And by now, the officers' academies are participating on accreditation. About the evolution of the Chilean higher education system, it is important to notice some things here. The system is. It's important to notice that higher education has been almost duplicating the enrollments consecutively in the last 30 years. And also, it is important to notice the important change between the 80s and 90s when the state opens the higher education to the market. This has produced two main views. This produced a significant growing on the system about diversification, because you can see in here that in the 80s there are all the universities, just 8, but in the 90s the system become more diversified. 302 institutions, and by other side, this process was accomplished without state regulations. So this produced a variety of quality issues, bad quality institutions, a lack of protection of students, and poor academic development. This is the current state of the higher education system. This represents a picture of the change, I think, and the relation within the market between private and public institutions. In relation with the enrollment, two important things. It is possible to notice that the enrollment has increased each decade. It's almost twice each time, you can see here. And the second important thing is the enrollment of women has been increased, has outnumbers men's enrollment in the last 6 years. Okay, now about the quality assurance system in higher education. All of these changes raise the necessity of some kind of regulation. So the state impulses some processes to provide public information about the institutions and to know how is the quality about the institutions and their programs. So in this case, this is the main three. This is the institutionality about for the quality assurance. Now, the National Council for Education, they supervise the new institutions by 6 or 10 years, and then authorize the new institutions. They provide them, they review these institutions by 6 or 10 years, and then they say this institution can manage by themselves, so institutions can regulate. That is the autonomy process. Then the National Commission for Accreditation, they work only with autonomic institutions. So the institutions participate in the accreditation, that is institutional evaluation. National Commission for Accreditation, they made undergraduate programs evaluation, graduate programs accreditation, and they supervise the private agencies. These private agencies start on 2006 because the law of which established the national system for quality assurance in higher education. By now, there are just 10 private agencies, and they just made undergraduate programs accreditation and graduate programs accreditation, but only master degrees. The PhD is a priority for National Commission. Okay, about accreditation, it's a voluntary process of quality certification for higher education institutions, undergraduate programs, graduate programs, and health field specialties. In this case, medicine school it lasts 10 years, but 7 years. But if you want to make surgeries or becoming some medical specialization, you need 3 years more. So it's a kind of a degree for doctors in this case. The purpose of accreditation is to provide a public guarantee of quality through a certification based on evaluation criteria. This is the main purpose of the National Commission. The accreditation process is it has 3 steps. An internal evaluation. Each institution develop a self-evaluation process, and they develop a self-evaluation report. They send this report with all their information, economical, financial information, all of the rates about enrollment, all of that information of the institution to the National Commission. The Commission develop a group of peer evaluators, and these peer evaluators visit the institution with all of the information. They develop their own report about the visit, and they finally provide all of this information to the National Commission, and they made the final accreditation decision. The accreditation of institutions is developed directly by the National Commission for Accreditation. As I said before, it is a voluntary process for institutions, but currently the state has established that higher education institutions must to be accredited to obtain state fundings. To 2013, 93 institutions are accredited. These 93 represent the 52% of institutions, but it represents as well the 90% of the total enrollment in Chile. This is about the process. This is important to know that this is the areas for institution accreditation. These 2 areas is institution management and undergraduate teaching are required evaluation areas. So every institution that which wants the accreditation needs at least to participate in these 2 areas of evaluation. And the institutions can add more areas to their evaluation that involves graduate teaching, research, and interrelations with the environment. I tried to translate this concept, but was really difficult. Yes, engagement but it represents the relationship that the universities or institution has with the society, and many other stakeholders. And I think if the institution want to participate just in this part, they can just accredit for 0 to 2 years. But if they add more areas, they can add more accreditation from 3 to 7 years. Okay, highlights about quality in higher education. The system has grown quickly, as we saw in last 3 decades, in diversity of institutions and the high rate of enrollment. In 2006, the Congress approved the law, the 20,129 law, which established the National System for Quality Assurance in Higher Education. Before the law, the accreditation experience was experimental. The process started in 1998, working directly with undergraduate programs. And now this happened in 2011, I think. The National Commission for Accreditation was involved in a serious corruption case. So the corruption case was related with a collusion from a member of the commission with some institutions that want accreditation. Private institutions. And this case revealed how some private institutions pursue to obtain the state funding. the main issue about this was this case exploded in the middle of the education crisis and in the middle of the social movements. And the social movements start to claim about the more state regulations in relation with quality in higher education. Okay, controversial issues in higher education and quality. There is a decrease of state support to public institutions. This creates unequal conditions for competition within the market. The system is highly centralized and unequal. This is, for us, it's very different to say centralization, because for us, this is a long country, and centralization means the center of the country, actually, because it's in the middle. And this is the capital city in the middle of the country, and this phenomenon is replicated at each level. The capital of each region is centralized all the things of at each region, and the main cities centralize all of the power of. It's like, I think it's a kind of inheritance from the military government on these days, I think. And in the case of private institutions, of private institutes and technical training centers, they, in relation with this, accreditation is a requirement for institutions which receive state funding. In that case, an important group of private institutions do not participate in this process. In relation with this, technical training centers and professional institutes, some of them have their own incomes, they have really good enrollments, and they don't participate on accreditation. But the thing is, they don't participate at any regulation from the government, and they work with lower income students. Okay. And finally, in relation with the accreditation process, the criteria for institutions' evaluation have been developed for institutions as universities and with a centralized perspective. This is, again, a replica about the centralization, because universities has more complexity than technical training centers. Some universities has, 100,000 students. So with 17 campuses, so you cannot compare that with just one technical training center who has just one campus in Santiago with 1,000 students, but are the same criteria for both. So, and there is no link between program and institution evaluation. In this case, you can accredit your institutions, your own institution, but probably you don't have any undergraduate program accredited. And the accreditation of institutions should be oriented to evaluate each campus separately. That is in my opinion, because by now, if you accredit your institution as a group, if you have 17 campuses, you present the institution completely. It's like, you present for accreditation University of Illinois in Chicago, Springfield, and Urbana-Champaign at the same time. And they are accredited as University of Illinois. The case is that, obviously, if with a centralized model, the main campus has all the resources. So the quality is very different at each level. And finally, the accreditation, it's important to add new criteria for a new criteria for evaluation. This is the ability of the institution to insert the student into a workplace. That is very in relation with the idea about the engagement of the institution with the community, with the society. Because institutions sometimes they don't have this kind of connections. if they private institutions, usually they just try grow the enrollment each year, but you don't know if those students are going to get a job in the future. And that is our presentation for today. Thank you very much for coming.
We have